Hi there. I'm Denise Hurd, and I am the president of Hurd Strategies, which is a PR firm, marketing and PR firm located here in Indianapolis, Indiana. And I'm so excited to be with you today. We are launching a really cool series that's called How They See Us. And we came up with this idea because, we're all seen through different lenses. We're all seen with different perceptions, and we all sometimes encounter obstacles because sometimes people's perception they think is our reality. So I thought, you know what? It would be really wonderful to have a conversation with people that I know, people that I work with, people that I admire about how they see us and how they've been seen and how they have been able to work through certain perceptions of how people saw them to achieve success in the industries that they represent. So I'm absolutely thrilled. I mean, thrilled that this first episode is going to be someone that I, Denise Hurd, have admired and respected throughout my entire career. And she doesn't even know this. And so we're going to have a conversation, and I'm going to bring her on in just a moment. And we're going to have a great conversation about how she's been seen, how her company's been seen, and how they've been able to surmount obstacles that they didn't even know they had to face because of who they are and what they represent. And so her name is Jennifer Deswaner. Some of you all may know her. She is an amazing, amazing PR practitioner, and she's one of the leaders of one of our premier PR firms in the city, state, and nation, Borshoff. So I'm going to bring Jen into this conversation. I'm absolutely thrilled that she's here, and we're going to talk about how they see us and how she's been seen and perceived over the years with her career in PR. So, Jen, come on in.
Hello. I'm verklempt at your introduction. That was absolutely beautiful beyond. So thank you. It's truly an honor to be here. I love the title of this. I love, working with you, and I'm excited. So thank you.
You are welcome. Well, when the team told me that I had to do this and I had to think of who was going to be my first guest, it hands down, it was you. Because, I truly admire you. I truly think you're an amazing human being, and we've worked together, we've grown together. And so what better person to start this journey and this conversation with but you. So let me ask you some preliminary questions as we get going. So you've worked in PR your entire career. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And
I say that, but really, I was a media buyer right out of school. So I made the jump from media buying to PR about 3 years into. Yeah, I was a media buyer for 3 years, and I could talk about that too. But yes, but agency my whole career.
That's what I thought. I thought you'd been agency your own career. So you said you started as a media buyer. Can you, in just a couple minutes, tell us about your journey, your career, and tell us a bit about your background and some of the clients that you've worked with?
Sure. Thank you. So we could call this Mutual Admiration Society too. So there is that as well. So thank you. From Ohio, went to IU because it was exotic. All my friends were going to Ohio State and Miami. So I ruled those out and somehow, went out of state because Jane Pauley had gone there. That seemed like a rational decision. So there's that. Right. Not even that I wanted to be on TV, but telecommunications and political science were my areas. And I really thought I wanted to do the media end of political campaigns. And turns out, no, I did my internships in both television and politics, and they both. I would say I did not have thick enough skin for either one of
Oh,
them. That's kind of how
yeah,
it felt to me.
yeah.
I would come home to my mom and say, is there a place where people work where they actually want to be there, like they want to work? And funny enough, she ran a psych unit in a hospital, and she said, yes, you will find it and you will love it. And
Mhm,
so, yes, so I did eventually. But my first job out of IU was with an agency in Indianapolis. And it was not terribly like Mad Men, but it was McCann Erickson.
oh,
Out of New
yeah,
York, we
yeah,
had an indie office here and handled McDonald's. And so I was McDonald's for the state of Indiana. I was a media buyer. Um, Being a media buyer, super fun in that you have pretty significant budgets. Like I had no idea how significant my budgets were
oh, yeah, and the
when you
McDonald's
see
budget is so
McDonald's
dope.
spending.
Yeah, yeah.
Then when you go work on other clients, you're like, oh, other people don't spend that much. Interesting. Um, but it was super fun. But it was back in the, so long ago that we were doing stuff on paper. We were walking down the hallway with floppy disks to print something. I remember when the
Mhm,
first fax machine showed up. I mean, it was just a different era of media buying. While there, I was tapped to join the PR team for the McDonald's clients. So
mhm.
this is where you and I have had parallel
Kindred
lives.
spirits. Yep,
Yes.
kindred spirits.
So I did that for 5 years. I did um, media buying and then PR for McCann Erickson, for McDonald's, and then left and went to work for an agency that handled Governor Bai's office, which was my political piece of it. And it
Mhm.
turns out I thought it should all be like being on the West Wing, but it was not. But it was, I admire anybody who does public service and those who want to do that and want to be governor. It was a really cool exposure, but it was not my jam. And when Borshoff came calling, I thought, well, I'll do this for a couple of years and then I'll move on. I think I always thought I would go corporate and live overseas. And instead, I went to an agency and found that I loved working on a multitude of clients because up to that point,
Mhm.
I had only worked on one at a time. And so the idea of moving between all different clients just
Yeah.
completely appealed.
I love. I'm so biased. I love agency work too. I loved and all be looking back, I loved working on the McDonald's account also. I truly, truly did. So I really thank you for sharing your career path because I think it's very important for people to know where you've been and your journey because people see like where you are and think like, but I woke up this way. Like Beyonce, I woke up like this. No, there's a whole story behind that. And so I think it's important to tell that story. So let me ask you something. So you've managed to achieve a great deal of success as a business owner and as a PR practitioner, and for many many decades, because you did the Mad Men reference previously. So for many decades, our industry was very male dominated, and so. How do you think that you, as a woman, have risen through the ranks to become an esteemed PR practitioner and an agency owner?
Thank you. I would say, first of all, Myra Borshoff, who started our agency in 1984 with a loan from her mother in law, is truly the one who that's where that credit starts. Because I think for a woman to go out and start her own agency, she had male partners, but she was always, the woman in charge. And so it was Borshoff Ketchum, then it was Borshoff and Company, then it was Borshoff Johnson, then it was Borshoff Johnson Matthews. And kind of a joke was that the year that I joined, maybe Deswaner was just a step too far. I don't know in terms of names. So anyway, we rebranded ourselves. We actually got some outside help with it because it's really hard to rebrand yourself.
Mhm.
And we rebranded to just Borshoff. And so all of those partners along the way were absolutely all about empowering women, empowering. While the PR industry can
Mhm.
be rather female, it doesn't mean we're always in leadership roles or that we're
Mhm.
always owners.
Mhm.
And so really it's credit to those partners along the way, to Myra Borshoff, Eric Johnson, Susan Matthews, for bringing me on. And then I now have 3 other women as partners who are totally
Yeah.
amazing, Karen,
Mhm.
Catherine, and Jen. And I think that for us, it's just been a matter of who's the right person for the job. And that would not be to exclude males at any point, but it has definitely been who's fully committed to this vision and to making sure that this agency is the absolute best it could be.
That's a good point. And here's the thing, I remember all those iterations of the name. I remember that. But what was interesting is that always first was Borshoff. Always. So
Right.
it's interesting how you had all those iterations and then landed with the singular name. And so now you have 4 women at the helm of this firm. And so, Jen, that's a lot of girl power. I don't care how you slice it or dice it. That's a whole lot of girl power. And so, how was that received by your clients, by your partners, by the staff? Did you get any like, I can't believe, because people are sometimes very, was it covert rather than overt? But how was that received once it landed the way that it landed?
Interesting. It's funny. I think that it must have been covert, meaning if people had issues with it, they didn't tell
You never
us. So I'll say
right.
that. I think it's a very it's we always are looking at those kind of articles, and you've read it all about how female decision making works.
Mhm,
We are very comfortable with group decision making. I think if you were somebody who really felt like you had to make all the decisions yourself and wanted to do that, you wouldn't want multiple partners anyway. So I think the fact that we happen to be all women doing that is relevant. And at the same time, we know a lot of agencies across our industry who there's a single owner for a reason, partly because it either just started that way. Right, exactly. Like you could decide in time whether you would want multiple owners or not, but some grow rather large with still a single owner, and they're just looking for that next succession plan.
mhm,
Our succession plan has always been, so Myra really always had she had multiple business partners. We have multiple
mhm,
partners. And I think that we do well with group decision making. It could get too big. I mean, we had a point of 5 partners. That was a lot.
mhm.
And it was just a rotation of when then Myra, Eric, and Susan each retired. And I think that it could get to be too much, but not because we're women, just because it's a lot of
Well,
decisions, a lot
people.
of group decision making. It's people. But we really appreciate that idea of each having shared responsibilities too. We
Mhm,
each have a different role within the agency, and I think that
mhm,
also helps
mhm.
significantly.
That's true. So I'm going to shift gears for a moment and talk about something that we as women struggle with. Not struggle, but we just often face criticism about, and that is our appearance. We have to look a certain way, and it's often, what's interesting is that as women, we are judged by our appearances, and a lot of times we're judged more harshly than our male counterparts. I remember a boss once telling me, you need to always make sure you have lipstick on, and you need to make sure you keep your tube of lipstick in your pocket and make sure you apply it before you walk into a meeting. Now, I can't see asking a man, I need you to put your chapstick in your pocket and make sure you put your chapstick on before you come into this meeting. Like, I wouldn't even form my lips to say such a thing, but it's like, okay, make sure your makeup is on, your earrings are on, you look presentable. And so I just think that's so interesting. And so, do you find as a woman that you are often double, triple, quadruple taking, looking at yourself and spending extra time to make sure that your appearance makes those around you comfortable?
So interesting. It's such a loaded, there's so many layers to this question. We could go back to, family of origin stuff and everything else with some of these answers. So
Hmm.
a number of things. One is I do think our business it is very much about first impressions. So
Hmm.
as much as I want to say it doesn't matter, it does to a
Hmm.
certain extent. But your question is such a good one about the male female issue, because you're absolutely right. Do I think women get more judged and more? Yes, and some of it we do to ourselves, obviously. I also think that what we're going for is competence, and how you appear needs to say competence and seriousness too.
Mhm, mhm.
So there's just so many layers to this question. And I would be completely hypocritical if I didn't tell you I am, I buy too many clothes, I buy too many shoes, I do all of that stuff. And I have a hairdresser who I see so wicked often. It's crazy. We are just together all the
Mhm.
time. I have nails people, it's the whole thing. And I'm not even that, partly because I'm not good at doing those things. Like I think some people go into this and they happen to be really good
Mhm.
at cosmetology and making themselves. I am not that person. I need great paid professionals to pull anything off. And and really, I think it's about all in the name of if it makes you happy and feel good and confident, that's what you should be doing. And that
Mhm,
to me is where that looks comes in. Is like
mhm.
if your hair is cooperating and you like something you're wearing and you've got some fun jewelry and your nails look good, you honestly do better in a meeting sometimes. That's not
Mhm.
true for everyone because I don't want to
Right,
put that on everyone either.
right.
I think we can all show up a little bit differently. I think this era we could all talk about what the pandemic has done in terms of it's loosened up a lot of things. I was
Yeah,
thinking about even what to wear on this today, and I was like, you know what, I should wear what I usually wear on a
right,
Friday on Zoom.
right.
So it is, does lipstick matter on Zoom? Yes, it does. Do
Yes.
I think, we all look a little better? For sure. But at the same time, I think it's how can you use your looks to make someone else feel comfortable and to make yourself feel the most competent
Mhm,
without feeling like you're having to do it for someone else. I think when it crosses a line into feeling resentful
mhm,
because of what someone else is expecting of you to look, I think
mhm.
that's not good. And I think we are all trying to come a far way in terms of we do not all need to look alike either. There should
Right,
not be a cookie cutter for every
right.
employee. Everybody needs to bring themselves to it.
I agree. I agree 100%. So let me ask you something else. So, everyone always, wants to know, how do I fill in the blank? And so I guess my question for you at this point is what advice do you have for young women hoping to pursue a career in public relations? Is there anything that you wish that women or even men in the discipline had told you when you were early on in your career?
I think one emphasis that I'm always telling, especially to students and to young professionals, is don't underestimate good writing. I know we say it a lot in our profession, but there is still a lot of writing. I mean, a lot of things are very brief these days, and a lot of it is, showing up on web and social and everything else. But while you're, doing your social media or kind of, mastering some of that, or when you're interested in studying public relations, communications, marketing, look at the writing part of it. Read as much as you can. They say that great writers come from being great readers. So I would say, really broaden your horizons and do a lot of reading. It could be books, it could be articles, magazines, all kinds of things. So
Mhm,
absolutely having that foundation. And then I think getting out in the community and getting to know as much about the community, and that could be the movers and shakers, but also all the different parts that make something work. I think curiosity is an absolute critical skill in our industry and in
mhm,
our area because thinking Indianapolis right now, um, it is a who you know kind of place, and that has both its good and its bad.
mhm,
It can be a really good place for people who are new to get involved and to come in and make a difference, but
mhm,
it also can be fairly tight knit and not open for everyone. I think that's
mhm.
something I've really been trying to work to do is expand your horizons, go and visit a lot of things. I think a lot of my getting out in the world is really just like reconnaissance work to try to say,
Right.
what is that?
Yeah,
What's that group doing? What are they
right.
doing? And anything I learn from it is going to help me and I think eventually help clients. So I think a
Mhm,
natural curiosity to get out of your own bubble and to go see what's going on in the community will
mhm.
serve you well.
I agree. I agree 100%. And I'm going to add one more thing to that, Jen. I think that I would encourage young women and even young men to advocate for themselves.
Mm,
With when you're in an organization, really being able to advocate for yourself because sometimes you will have that boss that, may not elevate you or you may not feel supported by or you just may so I encourage one to always advocate for themselves because in the workplace, there are biases, there's gender bias, there's cultural bias, there's all those things that do come into play. And so while we're doing all the things that you're prescribing for us to do, which is so paramount, I want everyone to remember advocating for yourself is just absolutely critical for, to achieve success in the workplace. So I do have one final. I can't believe that we're almost out of time together. It's gone by so fast. It's been so much fun. So I have one final question for you because I think everybody loves a oh my gosh kind of clutch your pearls kind of story. And so I want one from you. And so without naming names, or showing, or maybe change the names to protect the guilty. Um, can you share a story about when a colleague or male colleague, or maybe even a female colleague, had good intentions, but their advice or their counsel was clearly kind of misguided and riddled with gender bias?
It's interesting knowing this question was coming that I was thinking, wow, have I been really fortunate with male colleagues? Partly, I think you just have to be a feminist to kind of come work for us. I think we,
Hmm.
don't ask that in the interviews, but I think it just really happens. For me, I have to say the stories go far more to clients.
Hmm.
That there are clients who think they're being helpful by the way they are instructing you, but at the same time, they don't listen. And so, in the way that I've sort of had the pats on the head a number of times. I think it happened even more when I was young. But I would get to the end of some presentation or conversation, and somebody would say something like, wow, that was really good. And say it in a way that was like, are you kidding me? Like, were you expecting this to be, you know,
Right.
what I had somebody call me tiger, somebody call me,
Oh,
things like that, that you're like, God,
I.
are we really going there? But you kind of laugh in the moment. And I would say that for me, it was hard because I think my defense mechanism is to laugh, and sort of to
Mhm,
laugh it off and to not go back to your last comment, to advocate for myself in terms of, no, that was not okay.
mhm.
Um, I also think back to your comment that the advocating for yourself often comes in the terms of just raising your hand. In other words, it doesn't
Mhm,
mean you need to come in there with, guns blazing and say, I demand, a
mhm.
raise and a this and a that. But really to just keep coming in and say, can I do that? Can I do that? Can I do
Yeah.
that? And then people start thinking of you for things they didn't think of you
Mhm,
for before. So back to your question, I think it really comes down to that we end up in a lot of situations where it is a predominantly male client and an all male team, and they had asked if we had any men from our team that we could bring. And truly,
mhm.
we would be bringing them as like some kind of strange token male, where we're so
Right.
used to it used
Yeah.
to be token female.
Mhm.
You would just bring a woman to look diverse, and now they were asking us to bring a guy just to kind of make the guys feel more comfortable. And I think it took some time for me to get more comfortable with saying no. Like,
No.
that just does really not make any sense. These guys do not
Mhm,
work on this account. They don't
mhm.
know what's going on. Um, I just heard a client this week say that they had an all three female presentation team, and it was the best they had ever done. So I think it's
Wow.
more a matter of just changing it to be
Mhm.
sure that you say back to somebody, nope, this is the best, this
This
is
is
your
your
team.
Yeah, you wanted the best, we brought you the best.
Mhm.
So,
Yep.
next. So, okay. So, Jennifer, thank you so much for joining us for our first episode of How They See Us. Before we say goodbye, are there any final comments you'd like to make?
Just thank you so much for this. I mean, you are an amazing leader in our industry and
Thank
leading, and
you.
you were always doing it. And I think what you and I have found is we were kind of always doing this, but
Mhm,
now we've had more and more opportunities to work together. And for everything that you are and have done and have built, I feel like it's a beautiful thing that it's kind of much more your time now. And you
Oh.
can now say how they see us is really important. And let me give you my perspective,
Right?
because as a woman business owner, as a Black woman business owner, and as somebody
Mhm,
who's willing to say, let me give you my opinion, it's
mhm.
hugely valuable. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much because I firmly believe, and this is the part like I think you probably don't even know, if there weren't a Borshoff, if there weren't a Jennifer Deswaner, there would not be a Herd
Hmm.
Strategies, because you all paved the way for someone like me to be able to do what I do. And I feel very strongly about that because somebody had to do it, and so someone had to surmount those obstacles and pave that way so that someone like me could come behind. Yes, I have my own set of obstacles, but you surely eliminated some of those roadblocks for me. So for that, I do thank you. I do thank Myra. I had the pleasure of meeting her, and having breakfast with her when I first started out, and she poured such sage wisdom into me. And then several years later, I appeared on a magazine cover with her, and I was beside myself because, it's like, ah. So
And you both prove that you do not need height to be,
right.
the two of the
We're mighty. We're power. We are fun size. We're
you
powerful.
are
We're short but mighty. So yeah, we
mighty
really don't.
packages.
Like, there's no height requirement in business ownership
No,
and PR.
no.
That's so true. So true. So thank you, Jennifer. Thank you so much for joining
Thank
us.
you.
Thank you for agreeing to go on this ride with me. It's been an awesome, awesome journey working alongside you. I'm so excited about what the future holds for both of our firms. And let's just go out there and pave the way, break new barriers. So thank
Amen.
you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. So, I want to thank everyone for joining us for our first episode of How They See Us. Make sure you follow us on LinkedIn for future episodes. And also make sure you pay a visit to our friends at Borshop and visit their website at www.borshop.biz. They always have exciting things going on their social media, on their website. Every now and then they have a job posting or two or three. So you may want to take a look at those as well. And I just thank you again for joining us. Have a wonderful day.